And breaking news tonight, Florida Special Prosecutor Angela Corey will hold a news conference sometime in the next 72 hours to release new information in the Trayvon Martin investigation. The announcement comes on the heels of George Zimmerman's attorneys dropping their client after he stopped responding to their calls. For more, let's bring in Daryl Parks, attorney for the family of Trayvon Martin. Mr. Parks, good to have you with us tonight. I've got to ask you directly, do you think that this is it, that charges are going to be brought forward within the next 72 hours?
I'm very encouraged. I think that if you think about this case, Ed, it was rather clear that most of it has set a deadline of today being a day that we would get some type of decision. I think the special prosecutor must have realized that and realized that she had to give us some information so that we'd have some indicators of when we could get an announcement. And lo and behold, this evening, she did just that. She put out a statement that she, in the next 72 hours, would have a major press conference to announce what she's going to do. We know from our personal information in this case that her investigators have been out talking to witnesses, has gathered a lot of the information. She's asked us to be patient with her in doing her investigation. So now she's come to the point where she is ready to give us a major decision, and we're very enthusiastic about receiving that decision because at the end of the day, George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin, and he remains free, and that's a problem.
What about the 72 hours? Isn't that rather unusual that you would put a time frame on it?
Well, she probably won't take the whole 72 hours. I think what most prosecutors do, they give themselves a nice, wide, broad time set, and then they have something to work within, and it's still at their discretion.
All right, some very unusual and bizarre news today, and that is that George Zimmerman's attorneys have distanced themselves from their client because he hasn't been communicating with them, but he has been talking to Sean Hannity. Your reaction?
Well, I think it goes even beyond that. He actually called the prosecutor too, so he's been very non-compliant with their instructions, and maybe that's not the type of information that we should know as the public and as opposing attorneys, but now we know it. But what it does say is that George Zimmerman is the type of guy who will do what he wants to do, who will be non-compliant even when he has instructions. Very similar to what we've seen in this case where the dispatcher told him to stay in the vehicle, not to follow Trayvon, and he followed him anyway.
So he's pretty much a loose cannon from what you've seen.
Pretty much. I mean, the evidence speaks for itself. I think if nothing else, the American public has to look at this and clearly see that this is the type of guy who does what he wants to do.
Are you concerned about a flight risk? You think he's a flight risk at this point?
Very concerned. The only reason I have some assurances is that when we met with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement about 2.5 weeks ago, they told us that they knew the whereabouts of George Zimmerman. Realizing that this is an ongoing investigation, I'm pretty sure that they have maintained that contact.
Mr. Parks, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it.